Hi, I'd like to welcome everybody to this week's edition of the Belonging series. And this week I've got the pleasure of having, there we go, Lara Lalemi. Hope I pronounced your surname right. Please,
Lalemi.
Lalemi, right? And she's a postgraduate chemist working on atmospheric chemistry, she was just telling me. But she's more than that, she's got a whole host of different activities, including being a creative tuition consultant and an EDI advisor. So I'm going to ask Lara, sorry, doing well on the name today. I'm going to ask Lara to just give us a little bit of an idea about her experiences of being of being in academia, but also a bit about her early childhood, her life experiences, and we're going to take it from there.
Sounds good.
So let's kick off with the first question then. So tell us a little bit about your childhood and how, from your childhood, what's given you your sense of identity and belonging?
Yeah, okay. So I am a student that's from London, actually. So I currently live in Bristol, but I'm actually originally from Southeast London. And what that meant is that, again, like it was a more multicultural society, but the schools that I went to predominantly weren't that multicultural. I went to 4 different schools, and the last one happened to be a grammar school. And I think the brilliant thing about a grammar school is that they take you at a certain level, so already you're deemed like quite clever in the country. So yeah, it was really interesting upbringing where education was never really a choice. It was always just, well, you have to do it. And obviously everyone knows that phrase, you have to try twice as much to get half as much, kind of thing. So like I definitely grew up believing that I always had to work really hard, and my mum instilled a great work ethic to myself and my brother. And so yeah, I grew up thinking that, so do you know you used to get those little STEM sets when you were little? So she would get us that, but she mainly got my brother that, but like, yeah, she still allowed me to explore art and science, and like, because I had I'd say a larger science capital than some students, which means just how many people you know within science and stuff like that. I really was encouraged to take part in more science kind of subjects like biology, physics, and so yeah.
But what was it that gave you that kind of like bent towards science? Was there anything intrinsic? I know you said your mother encouraged.
Yeah, so like my mother's a sonographer, so a lot of physics was used in that. My brother's a doctor / trainee surgeon now, so like I had and my dad's a kind of carer, so I think I always had a kind of inkling or like love for science. And I think also like what people don't realize is this, it's the small things as well. So my mum would take me to the National Science Museum, and you see all the cool science and the cool places, and I think that in itself is really inspiring to a young student, because I think you can see the cool side of science. And again, with like ambassadors and like, yeah, even on the first day of university, kind of seeing experiments that are like more wow experiments, kind of, again, like it brings back the wonderment that you had for science when you were like 7 years old. So I think what kind of got me into science was my parents and my the kind of drive to have a good education, and one that was going to be lucrative, because you've got to think about sustainability and stability. And then also when I got to university, what's kind of kept me here again is like the people that I'm around, it's the subject itself, and also, yeah, the people you meet is just amazing. So science in itself, I'd say, is quite hard to get into unless you have someone there. I think also because I was afforded the opportunity to have tutors and to have extra help and mentors, I really did get into it. I never really thought I was good at anything, let alone, the only thing I'd say I was confident in was maths, because I loved maths, it made sense to me. But science is, because often you have to learn for an exam, you're not actually learning to understand. It felt like I never could write the right things for the exam, so I never did as well as I could have. So I had to do various amounts of retakes. And I think something that's really important to identify is that confidence is such a key element of doing science. You have to feel confident that you are good enough to do it. Because even currently now you suffer from imposter syndrome. I still don't feel like I'm a scientist, you know? So I think that's having that confidence, or people to kind of say, oh no, be confident, you're good at this, you got this, I think is really what helped. Like my mum had never stopped believing me to do science. So yeah.
So you mentioned quite a number of things in there.
Yeah.
About confidence, the development of confidence, the wonderment and the curiosity of science, which I think is always very important. But you also mentioned about the fact that your mother kind of like was almost like a role model in terms of her drive and her ambitions for you. Were there, aside from those influences which you had at home, did you have any other influences at school which pushed you towards, because you were in a grammar school?
Yeah.
So were there any influences which pushed you?
I would definitely say that in school there's always one or two teachers that encourage you. So like there was this teacher called Dr. Anseld she wasn't the nicest teacher ever, but she really did a really good job of teaching and letting you understand. And I think also encouraged me. So in my last year of school, I set up my school's first chemistry society. So this brought in like professionals and did experiments at the lunchtimes to kind of really encourage young people into chemistry. And one of the things that I found was really lovely is the head of science supported me all throughout that. He really encouraged me, offered references, like he was really lovely in the fact that he was invested in what I had to do. So I think one or two teachers definitely did invest themselves in like my education and my future. But I do definitely think that the myth of like grammar schools do have really good teachers, but again, like it's a lot of your own work. It's not that you go there and it makes you clever. You have to already be clever. And then also go the extra mile and ask them for help. Like, so what often I do is go to teachers when I didn't understand something. That wasn't often practiced by a lot of people, because again, it's seen as like, you're not as intelligent, right? But yeah, I've practiced that throughout university as well. Always ask for help. So I think that's also what encouraged me, because like in asking for help, I got a lot of encouragement there.
Okay, that's brilliant. There was one other question which just going to lead on from that. Of course, you went to a grammar school, but you were from South London?
Yeah.
From South London. What was the makeup of the grammar school? Were there, in terms of the demographics, in terms of how did you get your sense of belonging? Were there many other Black students there? How was that?
It's strange. There were a few. There weren't many. And I think there's this misconception just because you have a group of Black people in the space, they're all going to get along, which I don't think is necessarily true. Because I grew up in predominantly white schools, so I went to 4 different schools, like I said, and predominantly white schools. And when I did go to a more Black majority schools, I was kind of rejected from my own kind of people. And so it felt that like I didn't really feel a sense of belonging anywhere. It felt like I again was too Black for white people but not Black enough for Black people. And I know that is a contentious thing to say, but like it really did feel like I wasn't really good enough for anyone. So I think that my sense of belonging, a sense of my belonging actually came from dancing. So I did dancing for 15 years. I mean, I did many different sports, but my favorite one was dancing. And that allowed me to like use my performance skills, my confidence. That really built my confidence. I know a lot of people think it's like, I just said it was science, confidence in science, but it's also confidence in yourself in presenting. And I think that I gained from dancing. So I think that's where I found my sense of belonging and my self-worth, because I had people there saying that you are a good performer and things like that. I don't think I ever really got it from my educational spaces. While I never believed that there was some occasions that weren't great, but like I never feel like anyone put a barrier in front of me or judged me because I was Black, or made me feel alienated because I was Black. I often felt that way because again, like I didn't feel like I fit in to any group, you know?
Okay, you're at university now, and I'm going to move slightly away from your education, because I say slightly away, but I know that you've set up quite a number of initiatives. How did your own educational experience help to develop these initiatives which you are currently doing?
Do you know what? It's in everything other than the actual learning. So like it's like I said, that confidence to go up and ask people for help and to email people for help. I think that's one of the sole reasons I've been able to set up Creative Tuition, because I've gained contacts throughout my years here, which I'm now using now to my advantage. So I set up the first diversity in STEM event in Bristol, and then I did the first Being Me in STEM event as well. And I think it was, having those mentors in place to be like, okay, so how do I do this? What do I do? Like going through worked examples, like setting up a conference in your first year of your PhD with 100 people and it going actually smoothly was such a wild concept to me, because again, like it started very, very late. It started in November and I had, I think, 3 months to pull it all together. And because I clawed together such a great team, I was able to do that. So one of the things, like I say, is that enables you to start these things is having great team and recognizing also where you don't have skills and where someone else does, and utilizing that and nurturing their skills, and then combining it with yours. I think often, like what I tried to do the previous years was I tried to do everything myself, which is okay, but you burn out and you feel like you haven't achieved as much, because obviously you can't, because you're not an octopus, you know. Whereas when you start to integrate like other people's skills, you start to nurture them with yours and you actually learn from them, I think that's when I started to like flourish, you know. So I think that's kind of the reason why I started Creative Tuition. And also the people that I started Creative Tuition with me, they were my flatmates, so it was a lot easier. But also just seeing their passion behind it and like their willingness to like do it on a voluntary basis until we are able to actually be more successful and have that fundraising in place, I think it's important. It's also about building yourself as a leader as well. Like I think that I don't think you just jump in and you're immediately a great leader. I think there's parts of myself that I had to work on in order to become even a marginally good leader that can actually last longer than maybe 6 months. Do you know, like it's one of those things that you do have to learn, and I'm still learning and I'm grateful for that. But I definitely have a good amount of mentors around me to make sure that like I'm kind of going in the rightish direction for my own vision, you know.
You mentioned a couple of things, right? I asked you, I'm just trying to pull out the nuggets.
No, I always do this, sorry.
Right. So what I was thinking was just in terms of when you were talking about earlier on, where you spoke about you not feeling that you belonged in any way, but there was one thing that you always did, which was ask questions. And then when you've set yourself this challenge to set up a BM in, what was it, in STEM?
BME in STEM.
In STEM, right? The first conference which you organized, that takes a lot of negotiation, meeting people, bringing people together. So it sounds a bit kind of like almost like a contrast to what you said in terms of, I don't feel like I really belonged anywhere, but yet you're able to bring a lot of people who are then able to feel like they belong. So I'm trying to work out this dichotomy. What is it? Tell me a little bit more.
Okay, I think that's a really good question, actually. Thank you. I think that in a sense of not feeling a belonging, it's like looking to your left and right and be like, do you feel a sense of belonging? Do you feel a sense of belonging? And if the answer is no, it's like, okay, so how do we grow that for ourselves? Because I definitely am a believer in like, if you can't see it, create it. If you can't be it, or you can't see what you want to be or who you want to be, then be it yourself. So I think that I definitely try to create a space where everyone felt that they could talk and add in, and it just goes through hundreds of iterations of the different kinds of ways in which you could do the conference and bring people together. And what was amazing about the conference was that not only that a report was written and it was actually used, what was brilliant about it is that you had tables of mixed cultures, mixed heritage, mixed generations, and so you got rich stories from each of them. So you got people saying, no, I actually didn't enjoy university for these reasons, and people saying that like, I never knew it was so hard for people such as yourself. And that kind of learning curve that people went on was really beautiful. And then afterwards having food that wasn't just a normal sandwich food, but was actually culture food. So we had the Somali kitchen in, which is quite rare for like events. And so I really do think it's the little things that make people feel like they had a sense of belonging, and they gained a sense of like, or understanding of another person's culture and another person's way of life, which I think is more important. Connecting people is the most important part of whatever I do. It's being that glue. It's being that person that's like, oh, I know that lovely person over there that can help you, you know, because
No, that's good. I'm just dropping down some notes. I can't keep all of these nuggets in my head.
No, it's fine.
So with that, you said about connecting people. Connecting people is quite important. So you've developed your team, and so that's in relation to your conference, okay? And so the conference is looking at BME in STEM and how the challenges and navigating spaces. I think that's excellent. But in your creative tuition aspects, how is that different? What do you do? Give us a feel of that.
So it's actually interesting, because I think that while the BME in STEM event was important, and it is important in your academic spaces, I think often that if we just make everything about race or gender or sexuality, I think we are kind of, or personally, I'm missing the point. And I get why we have exclusive spaces, but one of the things I want to talk about is more the fact that like people from all walks of life struggle to get into STEM. There's barriers for a lot of people, and in particular low-income families, or families on free skill meals. Like, they don't have internet access, they don't have laptops. So it's actually what we're trying to do as creative tuition is say, okay, so whatever background you're from, we want to encourage you to be the best person you can be, and that's in helping with tuition. So helping boost, not fixing, but helping to fix the confidence issues. And then access to workshops that are career-based, that are also extra learning based, like about the Equality Act, about the things that are in Equality Act, and then also mental health help as well, because one of the things I know I needed when I was younger was a therapist, because I really didn't understand who I was. And it's particularly hard as a queer person when you don't really understand the thoughts that are going on in your head. So it's providing that extra support. It's basically providing everything that I have or I didn't have, and hopefully that is what students need. And I guess the brilliant thing about creative tuition is that it's iterative. So like, even if like what we're currently doing now isn't perfect, like we want to keep changing it and basically fitting it around what students need rather than what they think they want, you know, because I think that's the most important thing. So yeah, I think that is, we are concentrating obviously on race, on sexuality, gender, disability. We are that's important, that's at our core, but it's not the overarching thing is the low income status, because that money is one of the highest preventers of young people getting into higher education and apprenticeships and things like that. So that's kind of what I want to tackle.
Fantastic. You mentioned a whole host of things there.
I did indeed.
Like, it's a very holistic approach which you're taking. So you're not just looking directly at, academically, you're looking at the whole person. And I think it's that whole person perspective which makes it quite unique. Yeah, I think that's excellent. You also touched a little bit about like therapists and mental health, and explain a little bit about that and how that impacted on you, if you don't mind.
Yeah, sure. So I'll explain why. So in creative tuition, we have like a 3-tier system really. So the idea is to have mentors from academic or industry places like businesses to kind of offer that kind of mentoring for the undergraduates who are the tutors, and then the tutors themselves act as mentors to the students. And I think that we're having that kind of pipeline so that each and every person feels like they're getting kind of helped and guided into the position that they want to do. It's all about trying to help people get to where they want to be, and who they want to be rather than kind of what they want to be, because what you want to be changes all the time. And I think the reason why I want to offer mentors, like I said, is because I remember at the Being Me in STEM event, one of the best speakers of the day with Dr. Emmanuel Dukawu, he said, no matter what age you are, get a mentor. No matter how old you are, no matter how old they are, a younger mentor or an older mentor, doesn't matter what they are, as long as they're in a position of a place you want to go, or a place that they have been, do you know what I mean, that they have been, that you want to go. Because, and I find like I got, I think 4 to 6 mentors now in different little parts of my life, because I've realized that I don't know everything and I can't know everything. And sometimes it's, you need people to connect you to other people in order to like kind of edge your way even incrementally upwards. And so that's kind of, that's at the heart of what I'm doing, is providing that nepotism that we wouldn't have necessarily been afforded as people of color, and people with different sexualities, disabilities. It's giving us that step up, or that at least a peek into the door, so that we can shove through it, you know. And so I think providing mentors, either being a mentor or being a mentee, is important to your own career development. And like I said, it's only through that communication and that kind of connection that I feel like I'm doing better, not just as a scientist, but as a person. Because I think often what we don't do with science is treat people like they are anything other than just the science that they produce, which is not true. You're also a person. You also have thoughts and feelings. Like, leaving your home life at home is great, fine, cool, but like not always you can do that. Sometimes it really does affect your work, and because of how cold science is, it feels like you can't feel what you actually feel. And I know that's in many different departments, but that's in particular in physical sciences. So I definitely I want to encourage that, to kind of stop and to dismantle. I want to reform and reframe what education looks like, and bring in this idea of that, no, it's people-centered. Like, you have to care about the people as well as the subject in order to breed longer lasting students. And we are in a different time, we are in a different era. Like, we aren't going to be like our parents. We have to accept that and kind of move towards how we can create more, how we can approach this in a holistic way that encourages both mental health stability, as well as the omission of, when your mental health isn't particularly at this top notch, to ask for help. And to do that within a scientific space without feeling like you're jeopardizing your whole career, you know.
You made some very, very valuable points there. I just wanted to follow up on the idea about the development of not developing a role, but developing the individual, so that it's a holistic, I keep saying it's a holistic
no
approach.
But it is, it's got to be.
If you're comfortable within yourself, then you can be what you want to be, because you're comfortable. So I think that's
can I add to that? Because basically I think I've always struggled with the idea of becoming like a chemist or scientist, because scientist sounds like such a big thing, and I never thought I could be that. And like, when I started to learn and decolonize my own mind and trying to think about like, okay, so who is in science? And actually it came from the question of like, what have Black people actually contributed to science? Because I really and truly didn't think there was much, and then I learned there was a lot. And yes, in comparison to obviously the white contributions, is not as much, but like also learning about ancient civilizations, about the development of human race, even learning that humans came from East Africa and things like that, really did allow me to believe in myself a little bit more in terms of my academic prowess. It felt like there had been people before me, and I could stand on their shoulders, and again, hopefully someone can stand on mine. And that's kind of what I had to unlearn and then relearn, you know, like the fact that we teach Western science is not, I wouldn't define it as science, because there's different versions and different knowledge systems that have contributed to science. And the fact that we don't kind of explore that within science really affects me and affects, I think, young people. And that's kind of something I want to bring. So decolonizing science is really a part of my journey in understanding who I am and what I kind of want to bring to the world.
So I'm going to ask a kind of like a general question now. It kind of like leads in from, because you talked about like, you spoke about decolonizing your mind and looking at it from not just a Eurocentric perspective. So I'm going to just ask you a quick question related to your activities and how those activities have been impacted by the Black Lives Matter and also by the COVID pandemic, which is just, this is really left field.
No, I love it. No, it actually all integrates together, because actually, well and truly, I didn't only started creative tuition after the Black Lives Matter thing, because I remember sitting in my bed being like, okay, so what is the actual issue? So how do we fix it? And I just kept coming back to education. Like, education is where we get them, and that's either starting our own schools and being like, I'm done with this UK system, and so I'm going to create my own. It's changing the syllabus, the curriculum, making it more inclusive, more representative. So yeah, I came to this conclusion. And also, it's not just about, so BME people or people within a minority group didn't create the problem which they are actually suffering from. We didn't create it. We didn't ask for it. We didn't want it. And we didn't want to participate on it. But yet we've been charged with trying to change it. Yeah. And I think one of the things that I wanted to do is actually provide the source that no matter what race you are, you're learning about something you didn't know. That's why I have the Decolonizing Science. It's not just for, say, people like me to see who's represented. It's for people that are non-POC to see the contributions of BME people, because it's about changing everyone's kind of perspective and vision of what science is and was, and history is and was. It's not just about for me. And so I think it's really, that's why I also want to make it not about race. It's about, again, your income status, and even then it's about, again, what you want to learn and your passion for learning. So yeah, like, I think the Black Lives Matter movement was definitely a catalyst. I had this idea of having a tutor scheme like a year ago, but I just never felt like I was either good enough to do it, or I didn't really have the quite succinct idea. And from creative tuition in July when we started to now, it's 1,000 times different. Like, I've gone through so many different versions of what it can be, and still, like, I love the fact that I can grow it and change it and find the thing that actually perfectly fits within the area that I'm trying to look for. And yeah, just using that lean startup model of like starting a business or charity is really important to kind of establish that you shouldn't be static and you shouldn't be staying where you are. So I think, yeah, the Black Lives Matter movement definitely gave me this kind of fire to be like, I will not rest until I can see a change. But also what's brilliant about it is it's highlighting all the people that are currently already making those changes, such as like yourself, and having this podcast and things like that. It's so important to kind of realize how many things and people out there like supporting children, encouraging children, and kind of establishing what ways they're doing it and how I can maybe do it better or with them and collaborative. Like, so yeah, I think it's definitely, it's annoying the fact that it had to be Black Lives Matter, that and the death of George Floyd and Breonna Taylor and all those lovely, amazing human beings that were tragically killed. It took that to spark this kind of fury.
Yeah.
But I think it's also important that we realize that that we had to take time out of our lives, as in the normal life, to see it. And I think that, like, even though people like myself had been bringing this issue into the forefront for a very long time, it kind of speaks to how we need to kind of infer the message. It has to be not in a rage setting, but it does have to spark a kind of like, oh, this affects me too, you know, which is, and I'm glad we won't be going back. I don't think we will be going back, no matter how. It's not a moment, it's a movement. It's still, I can see people moving, especially in my university, which I didn't see before, you know, and that can only be valued.
Fantastic. I'm glad that you mentioned that your uni is moving. That's fantastic, because sometimes universities, as you know, it's hard to get them to change.
It's slow. Yes, it is. I think it's what's important is that recognizing that it has to be slow, but it has to be well implemented, because if it's well implemented, it doesn't matter how slow it is. It means that eventually it is going to have that change. Like, obviously we'd all like it to be like that, for everything to change like that, but if it's taken us 400 years of colonization to get to this point, and decolonization as well to get to this point, it's going to take us a very long time to unlearn and unpick and unroot and uproot, I mean, all those kind of cases of institutional racism or lack of care about the curriculum in terms of representation. It's going to take a while for us to unlearn that and uproot that. And so I do believe that university has to start somewhere, and I'd rather it start somewhere and grow than it just continue to deny, which it did when I kind of first started, to deny that racism or sexism or anything like that was a problem. Do you know what I mean? Like, denying it doesn't mean it's going to go away. And I really like the fact that we've moved past the point of denial. But again, like, I will always pull up the fact that more can be done. More can always be done. but yeah, we definitely have now, we have an anti-racism group, we have a Decolonize UAB group, and so you can only hope that it will move somewhere.
Because you mentioned it's a movement, not a moment, right? And there's something about that kind of like concept and that phrasing, which I think we can't yet say whether or not it's a proper movement, and it isn't yet. So how are you going to hold them accountable? Or how can we hold them accountable?
I think that I'm kind of, and this might be controversial, but I'm kind of done with the whole accountability thing. Mainly because of the fact that, like, they already know it's there. I don't think we need to present that anymore. What I'm definitely more like empowered by is people doing it for themselves. So people saying like, okay, so you haven't done it, so I will do it. And the university supporting those kind of schemes and those initiatives, because at the end of the day, it's often actually the pioneers, like the people that are doing the events by themselves and doing it for them, like with some support, that are making those changes. Like university-wide, it's very hard to make those changes, but if you have those small groups or small amounts of people doing it on their own localized like area, I think that's actually more powerful, because again, they know their area of expertise, they know their subject, and they know their people. So I think it's very much, I'm looking to more encourage people such as myself who are starting initiatives to keep going, because I think it's through us that it's going to keep changing, because we are now, well, personally, I'm not going to ever stop having this fire in my belly to change. Whereas again, the universities kind of what they want their perspective can change, and it can be like, okay, right, that was a fad then, like that's cool, we dealt with that, now can we move on to something else? But like when you have a localized group of people that are dedicated and really passionate about this thing, it rarely will change. So I'm really about boosting them and encouraging them and getting young people to start their own businesses and entrepreneurship and using their science degrees and using their PhDs to their advantage. That's what I want. I want us all to take it back for ourselves, rather than trying to ask for them to keep changing, because it takes too long for that.
So if I can summarize what you're it's all right. What you're saying is it's no good anymore looking to say we're expecting other people to change for us. We must be the change we want to see.
Essentially, yeah.
You had said, if you can't see it, create it. And so I like that kind of that mentality, that it's about our own self-empowerment as opposed to looking for somebody else to do it for us.
Yeah. And I understand that. It sounds like, oh yeah, you're just putting label on BME people, and it's not. It's not to say that. It's generally to say that. Again, I definitely think that if you want a task doing, do it yourself. As in, not do it alone, but as in like if you want it done well, do it yourself, and if not, support someone who's already doing it. There's a possibility for you to be a supporter and a leader, and it's not putting that like onus on BME people, saying you have a choice, but you also have support there. So yeah, I think that it's important to establish kind of where you want to go and make sure you are passionate about that. But yeah, institutions do need to change, and they are making those changes, and they are going towards more understanding how they can change. But I think the radical change that we need, which is curriculum change and a readdress of teaching skills and assessment like exams, really need to come from top down. And if it's that top down trickle down is very slow. So again, it's about finding other ways to mitigate that are outside of that slow process.
At this point, I could carry on asking questions, right? But because you're fascinating. But I just wanted to see if there's anyone in the audience, if they wanted to also contribute a question. Otherwise, I've got another one lined up.
Happy to answer any.
I don't see anyone's hands at the moment, so I'm going to crack on with another question then. How do you prevent yourself from burning out? Because you're doing a PhD. Yes. And you're doing all of these activities. Where do you get the time? Who's looking after you?
My mentors, my parents, my friends.
Yeah.
Me, I have a therapist. So I needed a therapist because I realized that I was very predisposed or whatever to needing a therapist. And just because you need a therapist doesn't mean you have poor mental health or you have mental health issues. It just means that you need someone external to talk to. And I think from burning out, so after doing the diversity in STEM event, I really did burn out, but that's because it was my last year and I was the president of that society. And I think what I learned from that burnout was that the fact that like the kind of the signs of when I am. And so like now I definitely think I'm better placed to like recognize the signs and know that if I am going to burn out, how much time I need to take out or like mentally of all the stuff that I do and then come back in. Because I think that for me, I love working on a number of projects. I want to be a project manager. Like I love or program manager. I love the idea of having different parts of my skills used in different parts of education and progress. So I think to prevent myself from burning out, I definitely have to listen to other people when they think that I'm doing a lot more than I can necessarily handle. And also then listen to my own kind of body and tiredness and think like, if I stop loving what I'm doing, then that's how I know I'm burning out. So it's like recognizing the signs, talking to someone about it, having those people supportive in place that you can go and break down to them if you need to, and also making sure that you're having conversations maybe with your boss about like how you're feeling, because again, like depending on how supportive your boss is, it's good to divulge when you're not feeling great, when you are feeling tired and lack of motivation, because they might just say like, yeah, me too. And that in itself, that me too makes you feel so much more validated than you ever feel just going through it all alone.
That's very good advice actually, in terms of recognizing the cues, the triggers which signal that, you know what, now I need to just take some time, some me time, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Some me time to develop me. And the idea of having a therapist or just somebody who you can go to, who you can have that confidence and be able to talk and express yourself without feeling that you're in an environment where you're going to be judged, right? They just want to hear what you're going to say, and then they'll not even give advice, but they'll just question you to enable you to reframe the position that you found yourself in.
Yeah, you put it perfectly. I think that what often people, and I don't know, I don't want to summarize a whole group of people, so I don't want to say Black people, but I would say the people that I knew within my Black community. I think what they often feel is that you have to keep your poor mental health or your feelings within your own community, or within your parents or within your family. And sometimes if your family could be part of that problem, you don't want to go and talk to them. And what people often think, well, in my personal opinion, what I thought of a therapist was going to be was someone that, was going to offer me advice and tell me exactly how to live my life and fix it. And they don't. Therapists, I want to move away from this point that therapists aren't meant to fix anything. They're meant to help you fix your own life by recognizing where you're not necessarily going wrong, but you're like hurting yourself in terms of your progression. Like they really help you understand your perspective and connect something from your past to how you exist now and how your confidence now and what do you know what I mean? It's like it's really getting you to think about you, because I think because I'm quite a giving person, I give my energy, I give my love, I give my all to everything I do. I think often I forget to like look after me, and that means like again, like, is Lara happy? Like, is Lara doing well for Lara's sake? Like, do you actually want this, or are you doing it because you want to seem like you're doing well? Do you know what I mean? And it's those kind of questions that it kind of brings up, and it allows you to kind of answer in your own time, in your own space, which again, I don't give myself that space to talk and to be the center of attention, because I feel like I always have to give it up to someone else. I always have to give someone else that limelight, or feel like I have to diminish sometimes what I think about things, because again, like, it's not appropriate or whatever, in terms of my race and things like that. But in that space, like, I can be whoever I want to be and not be judged, and that is a beautiful thing that I think we need. Like, I think we need that support, and that's why, because I know how therapy, because I spent 2 years hating therapy, and then I realized in the third year I actually loved it. That's why I want to give it to students, because I really do, and in group settings as well, so they feel like they're a part of like a group learning, because I really think it's important for young people to realize that, like, it's okay to have stress and depression and anxiety, especially due to exams, but it's okay to have that, but also it's okay to ask for help and receive help from that.
I'm going to just ask you one final question.
Of course.
And that question is just in relation to if you don't want to go into it, then don't. But you mentioned that you were in therapy. What was it that kind of like convinced you, I need to go and speak to someone about this particular issue?
I think it's quite hard to admit that you also go to therapy, but like it's a lot becoming more open now. So it's an interesting question. I think that it was actually really important because it wasn't when I was going through, say, a down stage. So you have really ups and downs, especially as a PhD. Like they did not lie when they told me it was a roller coaster. I thought I could jump off. I thought I was controlling the roller coaster. It turns out I was not. So you go through a number of ups and downs. And I think it was actually when I was in a really good mood, I was like, I need a therapist, because I was like, I want to prepare myself or have someone there for when I'm not feeling great, is when I'm not feeling like I want to continue doing the work that I'm doing, or when I need that extra help, because often you think you're doing really well and you think you're really happy, you are, but you're not ever preparing for those times where you're not going to be experiencing all the happiness in the world. And it's having that thing in place to be like, okay, so I have a crutch, or I have like someone to help me, I'm not alone. And that's what is important, I think, to have that. And again, like that's what creative tuition is doing, is providing that safe haven for young people to exist within and be themselves and not feel like they have to be anyone else, and to gain that confidence that they might have lost.
Yeah. I think that's fascinating. It's fascinating. And as someone said in the chat, wisdom beyond your years. It took me a long time to get to that position. So that's fantastic. So where do you see yourself in, let's say, 5 years time? I'm going to ask you that question. Or there's two parts of the question. There's always two parts. First part is, what advice would you give to your younger self?
Of course.
And where do you see yourself in the next 5-10 years? What do you want to have achieved?
It's a good question. Okay, what would I say to my younger self? I would say that no one's really told me I can do. Don't let yourself tell you that you can't do something. I told myself that I was never going to be good enough to do a PhD, and I'm doing a PhD because I genuinely thought I wasn't clever enough. And I think I've surprised myself. And to be your own savior as well. And no one's going to come in and save you. Like, you have to be your own encourager, like interpreter, like you have to be your own, like, drive, because sometimes you won't always have that, and you sometimes do need that. And so it's okay to be that person for yourself. I think I'm definitely, amongst obviously everyone that supports me, I'm definitely the one person that encourages myself to do and to go for things, and even when it seems stressful, to do it, because it's like, well, I've got you, you know what I mean? It's believing that you've got yourself, which is a really powerful thing, because even if you fail, everyone says that failure is just another lesson, and I agree with that wholeheartedly. All the things that I failed in or messed up on, I've learned from, and I know I won't do that again. Where do I see myself in 5 years? I think working with communities in terms of and bringing about better education resources. Again, continuing in my own business and making new connections there, and again, like just using my science to my advantage in the education setting. But just hopefully having more young people speak to me, be mentored by me, but also having my mentors mentor me, and to really, I just want to see growth in the next 5 years. And it's really hard to see, especially in COVID, what that's going to look like. And so I don't like to put too many stamps on that. But like, I've always had this idea of being like having my own office and things like that. So I think that as long anything that gets me further towards that goal is like a blessing.
Brilliant. Lara, you have been fantastic.
Why, thank you. I really enjoyed it. It was great questions. I loved it. It's enough time to delve into everything enough. So I really loved it.
This is really my final question.
Okay.
This really is now.
We've got a minute to go. We got this.
All right, we got this, right?
Yeah.
You mentioned earlier on that you like dancing. What particular genre of dancing is it that really excites you?
See, I did too many. So I did like tap, modern, jazz, ballet. I think my commercial jazz was the best because it allowed me to use my sass and my performance skills and my hand movements and my hair. Like, it was great. I think it really allowed me to, and the dancers, the dance teacher was phenomenal. I mean, for the small little penge group that we were in, like, it was a great way to like encourage young people to, or me to like perform in the way that I loved. And so, yeah, I take those lessons with me forever. And like, just to leave you with the fact that like my dance teacher, I remember in year 8, literally sat me down because I was constantly sad. I was not happy. And she was like, "Are you okay?" And it was that dance teacher, which is Mrs. Lucy Lovick, who is probably one of the sole reasons why I got out of my head and became more confident, because she genuinely took the time to care about me and to care about me. She used to teach me Spanish as well. She generally took the time to really care about who I was as a person. And that is more invaluable than anything anyone else can kind of give you. Obviously your parents and stuff like that, but like, it's for an external teacher to be like, okay, so I care about you enough to like help your development. I think that was, something that I really needed. And so, I'd say that dance, I think we believe that arts and STEM are very separate, and they really shouldn't be. There's art in science and science in art. So I'd encourage people to see both in both.
Excellent. Thank you so much for being on.
No problem.
Really.
It's been an absolute pleasure.
You're dancing. As someone who's got literally 2 left feet, I've tried. The rhythm just doesn't seem to.
It hasn't captured you yet.
What happened? Right?
I mean, dancing, like I said, I think even just to go back in the past, like my mom felt like she never had dancing lessons, she never had music lessons, she never really did a lot of sport, and so she gave me all those things. And so like, it even goes back to those Black powerful women that have given their children all the start in life that they could possibly do. And I don't think I would ever be able to thank my mum enough. And I think that's why we treat her every birthday that she has in Christmas, because like, honestly, the sacrifices, she's been working 7 days a week, and really putting me through dancing, and I did athletics, hockey, all those things, and she obviously paid for all of them, and I never saw that struggle really and truly. And so I think having that powerful woman in my life being like, okay, so I'm going to give you everything you need to start, and it's your choice whether to use those, really, it puts a lot of pressure on you. And I think again that can put a lot of pressure on you, but it you can either become a diamond or stay as coal. So
fantastic. Lara, thank you so much. I'm just going to do my usual thing, which is just to advertise for next week. And I want to wish you every success with completing your PhD, which I know you're in your final year. So
I'm gonna, it's third year. Don't rush me yet.
Third year. So you've got a way to go, but I'm 100% sure you're going to make it without a doubt.
Thank you.
So thanks again.
No problem.
I'm going to just say what's happening next week. So next week, we're going to have a Chinese New Year celebration. And we've got 3 individuals. We've got Moon Lee, who's actually been on the show before. So she's our first returnee. Moon Lee, and we have Ping, and we have Betty. And they're going to give us a little bit of an idea about different ways of celebrating the Chinese New Year. So that's going to be up next week. And then if you have missed any of these series, you can find them on our YouTube site, tinyurl.com/belonging.iao. So thanks again for joining us, and we'll have another episode next week. Thanks a lot. Thank you again, Lara.
No problem. It's been lovely. I can't wait to see your series, actually. I'm going to look more into it.